good afternoon. You're watching News Blitz on ZTN's channel. Let's take a look at stories making headlines today. Ban corporal punishment at your own peril. We tell you about Zimbabwe's journey back to the Commonwealth. Power cuts delay South African vote counting. And in sport, Mountaineers seek a second win. Zimbabwe is confident of rejoining the Commonwealth, a grouping of former British colonies, with the country's president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, revealing that there have not been any hurdles so far in the process. Zimbabwe withdrew from the Commonwealth in 2003 at the height of tensions between Harare and London over the land reform program, but expressed willingness to rejoin in 2018. On Monday, President Mnangagwa held a closed-door meeting with Commonwealth Secretary-General Patricia Scotland to discuss the country's prospects of joining the 54-member group of former British colonies. The two met on the sidelines of the United Nations Climate Change Conference that's underway in Glasgow.
We had a very fruitful discussion with the Secretary-General. There's a process which is to be followed, the procedures, and that process is ongoing. There's never been any, there's no conclusion yet. We have to follow the process.
Commonwealth Secretary-General Patricia Scotland said the group is ready to welcome Zimbabwe back once processes for rejoining, which are underway, have been completed.
Well, I think both the President and I have been talking about the issues which we both see have to be dealt with, but we are hoping, willing to welcome Zimbabwe once the procedures that we've talked about today have been completed. It's not possible to say now, but the President has made it very clear that he is committed to returning to the Commonwealth and committed to our values and our principles.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa addressed the Zimbabwe Investment Conference in Scotland this afternoon, and in his speech he highlighted the number of opportunities available back home. As cases of juvenile delinquency and general indiscipline continue to hound schools in Zimbabwe, school authorities find themselves with a mammoth task to restore and maintain discipline within the learning environment. Corporal punishment is one of the traditional methods that have been available to teachers to enforce discipline. This form of punishment has been outlawed in Zimbabwe, and teachers are calling for its reintroduction. Progressive Teachers Union of Zimbabwe's Secretary-General Raymond Majongwa says the move is populist and is promoting indiscipline.
What we are saying at the that is, we can't remove corporal punishment. If people remove corporal punishment because you want to please people who are funding the processes, it's okay. But Zimbabwe will pay a huge price because of that reality. We are not refusing. We don't want to beat up anybody. Teachers are saying you remove corporal punishment. Please go ahead and do so. But when things go wrong in our schools, don't blame the teachers. We are not there for them. They are there to teach. You will repair the kids to the police, you will repair and expel the kids from school, then you will not do anything.
But government says it will not compromise on the ban. Primary and Secondary Education Minister Dr. Evelyn Ndlovu reiterated this position earlier when she met British Ambassador to Zimbabwe, Melanie Robinson, to discuss ways to create a safe learning environment for children.
Corporate punishment is unacceptable. Our constitution does not provide to protect the child. So we are taking all measures to make sure that we come up with something different. For instance, if you find children abusing drugs, we know what the President has done. He's come up with a committee to make sure that it addresses the drug abuse in schools. So that committee will come up with measures and recommend measures on how to deal with children who are abusing drugs.
Ambassador Robinson said the British government will share knowledge with Zimbabwean teachers on how to discipline children without resorting to corporal punishment.
Yes, well, just starting with the Education Act, it was great to see that act saying that corporal punishment doesn't have a place in Zimbabwean schools, so that children really can be safe to learn. That's something where we're providing support to the government on what are the techniques that you can use as a teacher if you've got children that are maybe not behaving in the classroom. Those are techniques that, yes, we use in British schools now to teach children self-discipline and to put structure in the classroom. And it's been working now for decades in the UK, and we're very happy to provide that kind of support so that Zimbabwe can also develop those techniques and teachers can really be empowered to have a classroom where children really can be safe to learn.
Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, being deaf was linked to social isolation. However, as the pandemic escalated, it highlighted existing inequities for the deaf. Simple acts many take for granted, like the wearing of face masks, has left 1.5 million Zimbabweans facing communication challenges. This was highlighted by sign language activist Douglas Mapeta at the ongoing National AIDS Council Media Workshop in Chinhoyi.
This is a PC, Prime Councillor and a deaf client. Look at the masks there. We are talking about challenges, am I right? This is down there. Okay, in the raw setup. This is a PC. She is deaf. Look at the mask putting on. Look at the mask. But this deaf person rely on reading. These are difficulties which are challenges.
The media in Zimbabwe should become an active medium that promotes women empowerment. This will ensure women in business and politics achieve their full potential. Zimbabwe Gender Commission Chief Executive Officer Virginia Muwanigwa said this in an interview with ZTN correspondent Mercy Ngwevu during a women political training and mentorship program in Mutare.
Part of that truth is the media also has a responsibility to also ensure that you do this gender responsive coverage, so that then we can have the kind of country and representation that is diverse. Because we cannot have political parties where only the voices of the men are speaking. We do need the diversity. Women are good in certain areas and we need their voices to come into politics, just as men are also good in certain areas. And then I already spoke to our type of politics, so the issues of violence, hate speech, cyberbullying, and physical and sexual violence.
The sword of Damocles is hanging over the Harare City Council's canines. The dogs are neglected, and to make it worse, they are currently being used for patrols by the city fathers. This of turn exposes vendors and council workers to rabies, a deadly virus spread through the saliva of infected animals through bites to people. To this end, the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, SPCA, will likely seize them. ZTN correspondent Sharon Munjenjema visited the city of Harare's canine section premises and filed this report.
Visitors to the Harare Municipal Police Dog section are welcomed by a foul stench and a swarm of flies before they even hear sounds of the much-feared canines barking. And behold, as one approaches the dog master's office, the stench gets heavier. Cold rooms which are meant to store dog food have been turned into offices by the supervisors. It gets even worse. Refrigerators in the so-called cold rooms are not working. Only heavens know when they were last serviced. For the better part of their day, the supervisors will be choking to the stench of rotten meat meant for the starving dogs. Outside, the place reeks of best sewer. Normally, employees who operate in such hazardous environments receive an allowance, but that is not the case here.
Other things they were raising are the noxious allowance. They are not getting the noxious allowance, and the noxious allowance is very paltry because they are being given 5% of their basic salary, whilst in other sections in the Harare Municipal Police, like the CIT, they are being given about 20%. So they are saying we are supposed to be regarded as a special unit, and we have to be given also what we deserve, since it is passion to be a dog handler.
While experts recommend that people who work with dogs get the rabies pre-exposure jab, All employees at Harare Municipal Police Dog Section have never been vaccinated.
The issues of the Harare Municipal Police dog handlers are, firstly, as you know, rabies is highly infectious, so they were not inoculated. That is, they were supposed to be given anti-rabies vaccine, and also the dogs are not vaccinated. They were vaccinated in May 2020, and they are currently due. So we are saying they are at high risk of contracting the disease from these animals. And also the working conditions they are working on are very poor, and even the state of the dog kennels are very poor, and they need those dog kennels to be improved.
Animal care experts have also raised concerns about the welfare of the dogs. Apart from failing to get vaccination injections timeously, the dogs are living in conditions tantamount to animal cruelty. Inspectors from the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals came face to face with the deplorable conditions at the Harare Municipal Police Dog Section, but they refused to comment on camera.
I think that's news to me, what you're saying, because I've just given you what happens here. We have a scheduled vaccination for all our dogs. So once the schedule is up, they'll be vaccinated. Our workers are free to raise issues of concern, and their issues of concern, if they are found to be genuine, they will be addressed.
Police in the Midlands province have issued a prohibition order against carrying dangerous weapons in public places in the wake of a recent surge in violent crimes. Weapons such as machetes, catapults, knob carriers and knives, among others, have been banned under the prohibition order, which runs from November 11th to February 10th next year. The latest case of violent crime to be recorded in the province is of a vendor from the city of Gweru who on Tuesday allegedly fatally struck his wife with an axe and his 2 children with an axe handle after falling into a trance during a prayer session. Midlands Police spokesperson Inspector Emmanuel Mahoko confirmed the prohibition order, which will affect areas under Gweru Rural District.
Officer Commanding Police Rural District in the Midlands Province has issued a prohibition order for the carrying of dangerous weapons in public places. This is due to the increase of cases of violence using weapons such as machetes, knob carriers, swords, knives, spears, daggers, catapults, and other offensive or traditional weapons. Officers commanding police districts are regulating officers for areas under them in terms of the law. The notices are issued in terms of Section 4 (1) of the Maintenance of Peace and Order Act, Chapter 11.23. The reason of this prohibition order is to curb crimes of assaults.
A 35-year-old woman from Bare in Harare appeared before the Harare Magistrates Court on Wednesday facing charges of unlawful possession of crystal meth to the value of 9,000 Zimbabwe dollars. Investigators heard that on November 2nd at around 9 a.m., information was received to the effect that Margaret Chigumura was dealing in crystal meth. Acting on the information, detectives proceeded to her home and conducted a search leading to the seizure of 2 sachets of crystal meth. Further searches were done in the house in the presence of the accused, leading to the seizure of 29 more sachets of the banned substance. She was subsequently arrested. And with that, we move to stories beyond our borders. South Africa's power outages have affected the pace of vote counting following the local elections on Monday. The Independent Electoral Commission had hoped to have counted 90% of the votes by Tuesday night, but only 58% had been counted by this morning. The state electricity distributor, Eskom, had announced that it would be implementing the power cuts from 4 p.m. on Tuesday to 5 a.m. on Wednesday. The United States has approved the Pfizer vaccine for children aged 5 to 11, clearing the way for millions of young Americans to get vaccinated. The decision by Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Rochelle Walensky comes after careful consideration from U.S. drug regulators. The U.S. is already giving the vaccine to those aged 12 and over. This approval affects some 28 million children. Experts argue that jabbing the young is necessary for a return to normal life. And FDA officials determined that the vaccine is around 91% effective in preventing COVID in young children and that their immune response is comparable to that seen in people aged 16 to 25. No serious side effects were found by researchers. Stay with us for sports news coming next. The Logan Cup is on in Harare with Mountaineers taking on Southern Rocks. Ntando Nsigane is watching the Mountaineers, who are eager to record their second win. Good afternoon, Ntando.
Well, thank you very much. We are live here at Old Hararians. Well, it's lunch break right now, where the Rocks are taking on the Mountaineers. Now, the Mountaineers elected to bet first, and their captain, Kevin Kasuza, has 14 runs as it is, and PJ Moore has 17 runs, and the overall score is 55-1. Now, in other cricket news, we have the Lady Chevrons assembling in Bulawayo ahead of their 3 ODIs against Bangladesh. And also yesterday, the International Cricket Council released a list that Zimbabwe, which is the host, will be taking on Thailand on the 21st of November at the Harare Sports Club. Now that's it for cricket. Reporting for ZTN Sport, I'm Dando Racing.
And that's it from us here on News Blitz. But be sure to follow our social media pages for these stories and more updates. Stay with us for World in 5 coming up shortly.